She slammed her fists against the wooden door so hard the skin on her knuckles split open, blood mixing with the rain running down her wrists. Please, please somebody open this door. Victoria Brennan, the woman who controlled a $400 million company, was screaming at 5 in the morning, soaked to the bone, trapped in a wheelchair on a stranger's porch. And the man behind that door, he was the lowest paid employee in her entire corporation. What she was about to confess to him in the next 20 minutes would destroy her career, shatter his world, and expose a secret that had been buried for 7 years. Before we begin, drop a comment and tell me what city you're watching from tonight so I can see how far this story has traveled. And if you love powerful emotional stories like this one, hit that subscribe button and ring the bell, because what happens next, you won't believe. The pounding on the door wouldn't stop. Nathan Whitfield rolled over in bed and stared at the ceiling, certain he was dreaming. It was 4:53 a.m. The numbers on the alarm clock glowed red against the dark. Outside, the rain was hammering the roof of his small 2-bedroom house in a way that made the whole place sound like it was being pelted with marbles. The pounding came again. Not a knock, a pounding. Desperate, frantic. "Daddy." Maya's voice came from the hallway, small and scared. His 10-year-old daughter was standing in her purple pajamas, holding her stuffed rabbit by one ear. "Go back to bed, sweetheart. Somebody's at the door." "I know. Go back to bed. Daddy will handle it." She didn't move. She just stood there, hugging that rabbit against her chest, watching him with those big brown eyes that always seemed to see straight through him. Nathan threw the blanket off and grabbed the gray t-shirt slung over the chair. His hands were shaking, and he didn't know why. Maybe it was the hour. Maybe it was the way the pounding had a kind of rhythm to it, like somebody was running out of strength but refusing to give up. "Maya, bedroom, now." "But Daddy, now." She backed away, but she didn't go all the way back to her room. She lingered at the corner of the hallway, peeking around the wall. He didn't have time to argue with her. He walked through the small living room. The pounding came again, weaker this time, almost like a whimper translated into a fist. Nathan flipped on the porch light and looked through the peephole. His heart stopped. He blinked again, pressed his eye against the glass and stared. It couldn't be, but it was. Sitting on his porch in a wheelchair, drenched from her hair down to her shoes, was Victoria Brennan, the CEO of Brennan Logistics. The woman whose face was on the cover of Forbes magazine 3 months ago. The woman who signed his paycheck. The woman who, as far as he knew, had never spoken his name. "Oh my God," Nathan whispered. He fumbled with the deadbolt. His hands were shaking so badly he had to try twice. When he finally yanked the door open, a wall of cold rain blew into his face, and there she was, looking up at him with mascara running in black rivers down her cheeks. "Mr. Whitfield," she said. That was all she got out before her voice cracked. "Ms. Brennan?" He didn't even know what to do with his own voice. "Ms. Brennan, what are you doing here?" She didn't answer. She just looked at him, and Nathan watched something break in her face, like a dam giving up. Her shoulders started to shake, and her hands, which had been gripping the wheels of her chair, slowly came up to cover her mouth. "I'm sorry," she whispered. "I'm so sorry. I shouldn't have come. I shouldn't. Oh God, I'm so sorry." She started turning the chair around, fumbling her wet hands, slipping on the rims. "Wait!" Nathan stepped out onto the porch in his bare feet. The rain hit him cold. Wait, hold on. Ms. Brennan, you can't. Where are you going to go? Where's your driver?" "I drove myself." "You drove yourself in this?" "My car is at the end of your street. I parked there. I sat there for 2 hours. I couldn't decide if I should knock. And then I just couldn't sit anymore." 2 hours. You sat in your car for 2 hours in the rain. The car wasn't in the rain, I was. He looked past her. There, parked under a maple tree about 100 yards down the road, was a black Mercedes with the driver's door hanging open like she'd just left it that way and rolled away. "Ms. Brennan, please, come inside." No, this was a mistake. I should never have. I don't even know why I came here. I had your address from HR. I had it on my phone. I was driving and I just typed it in. I don't even know you. You're freezing. I'm fine. You're not fine. Ma'am, with respect, you are not fine. She looked up at him, and for the first time he saw her without the armor. No suit, no earrings, no pearl necklace, just a woman in a soaked blouse with rain on her face and a tremor in her bottom lip. Please don't tell anyone, she said. Please, I'll lose everything. Ms. Brennan, I'm not going to tell anyone anything. But you're going to come inside, and I'm going to get you a towel, and I'm going to make you some coffee, okay? Just come inside. She didn't say yes, but she didn't say no either. He took that as enough. He got behind her chair, and the moment his hands touched the handles, he felt how cold the metal was. He pushed her up the small ramp at the side of the porch, the same ramp he'd built for his late mother 3 winters ago before she passed. He'd never taken it down. Some things you don't take down. The wheels left wet tracks on the wood floor. Maya, Nathan called out. Sweetheart, come here. Bring a towel from the bathroom, the big one, the blue one. Maya appeared at the corner of the hallway, eyes wide, taking in the woman in the wheelchair, the rain her father in his bare feet. She didn't ask a single question. She just turned and ran for the bathroom. Your daughter? Victoria asked. Yes, ma'am. How old? 10. She's beautiful. Nathan didn't know what to say to that. He pushed Victoria into the living room and parked her near the radiator. Maya came running back with a towel almost as big as she was. She held it out to Victoria with both hands like it was an offering. Here, miss, Maya said. Thank you, sweetheart. My daddy says it's the warmest one. He uses it after he showers. Maya, Nathan said gently. What? It's true. Victoria laughed. It was a small broken laugh, but it was a laugh, and Nathan saw something in her face soften in a way he didn't think it had softened in a long time. Thank you, Maya, Victoria said. Your daddy is very kind to share his warm towel with me. Maya hovered watching Victoria wrap the towel around her shoulders. Nathan went into the kitchen and started a pot of coffee. His hands were still shaking. He couldn't get them to stop. When he came back, Maya was sitting cross-legged on the floor in front of Victoria's wheelchair, looking up at her like she was a creature out of a storybook. Are you hurt? Maya asked. No, sweetheart. Then why are you crying? Maya, Nathan said. Sweetheart, why don't you go back to bed? It's still very early. No, it's okay, Victoria said quickly. It's okay. She can stay. She looked down at Maya and her hand reached out, hesitated, and then settled gently on the top of Maya's head. I'm crying because grown-ups sometimes feel things that they don't know how to talk about, and the feelings get so big inside that they have to come out somewhere. And tonight, mine came out of my eyes. Maya thought about that for a long moment. That happened to me when my mommy left, Maya said. Nathan felt his stomach drop. He looked at his daughter, his strong, quiet, careful daughter, and he saw the same thing he saw every time the subject came up. Her chin lifted. Her face went still. She didn't cry about it. She never cried about it. She just got quiet. Maya, Nathan started. It's okay, Daddy. I'm just telling her so she doesn't feel alone. Victoria's hand was still on Maya's head, but now her fingers had curled slightly, and Nathan could see her jaw working. Maya, she said softly. That is one of the kindest things anyone has ever said to me. Maya nodded satisfied. Then she ran to her bedroom, came back 30 seconds later, and held out her stuffed rabbit. Here, you can borrow him. His name is Mr. Buttons. He helps when you're sad. Just give him back when you're done. Victoria took the stuffed rabbit in both hands like it was made of glass. I will take very good care of Mr. Buttons, she whispered. Okay. Good night, miss. Good night, Maya. Maya disappeared down the hall. Nathan heard her bedroom door click shut. He waited until he was sure she wasn't coming back, and then he sat down on the couch across from Victoria and finally let himself breathe. For a long moment, neither of them said anything. Victoria was holding the stuffed rabbit against her chest. Her hand was trembling. Mr. Whitfield, she said finally. Nathan, Please. Nathan. She closed her eyes. Nathan. I can't tell you why I came here. Okay. I can't tell you because if I tell you, you'll never look at me the same way. And tomorrow morning when you walk into that warehouse and clock in, you'll have to look at me on a screen in the break room, and you'll have to remember everything I said tonight. Ms. Brennan. Victoria. If we're doing first names, do me the favor. Victoria. Whatever you say in this house tonight, it stays in this house. You can't promise that. Yes, ma'am, I can. Why? Because I'm a man who keeps his word, and because I have a daughter sleeping in the next room who just gave you her favorite stuffed animal, and I am not going to teach her that the world is the kind of place where people use other people's bad nights against them. So whatever you came here to say, you say it, and I take it to my grave. She looked at him for a long time. You're not what I expected, she said. What did you expect? I don't know. I went through your file before I drove here. I sat in the parking lot of my building at 1 a.m, and I read your whole personnel file. I wanted to know who I was about to embarrass myself in front of. You haven't embarrassed yourself. I'm in your living room at 5 a.m. holding a stuffed rabbit soaked to the bone with mascara on my face. I have absolutely embarrassed myself. Then we're even because I'm sitting across from the CEO of my company in my pajamas. She laughed again, that same broken, exhausted laugh. But this time it lasted a little longer. Your file says you've been with us for 6 years, she said. Warehouse 3 night shift. You were promoted to lead handler twice and turned it down both times. Why? Hours. You wanted fewer hours. I wanted hours that let me put my daughter on the school bus in the morning and pick her up in the afternoon. The lead position is days. The lead position is meetings. The lead position would mean I'd see her on weekends, and that's it. You turned down a promotion to be with your kid. Yes, ma'am. Twice. Yes, ma'am. She stared at him. The towel was still around her shoulders, but he could see her hands had stopped shaking. The stuffed rabbit was sitting on her lap now. My father turned down a promotion once, she said. Long time ago. Different reasons, but yeah, he turned one down. I always thought that's why he stayed bitter for the rest of his life. I thought turning down a promotion was the worst thing a man could do for himself. Maybe it depends on what you traded it for. Maybe. The coffee maker beeped from the kitchen. Nathan got up, poured 2 mugs and brought them back. He set one on the small table next to her chair. She wrapped both hands around it without drinking, just letting the warmth come into her fingers. Nathan. Yeah. Tonight I went on a date. He didn't say anything. He just listened. His name was Marcus. We met 3 weeks ago at a charity thing. He's a developer, real estate, owns half the buildings on the west side. Tonight was our 3rd date. He picked the restaurant, someplace downtown with white tablecloths and a guy playing piano. I wore the dress I bought last month, the one I told myself was for a special occasion. She paused, sipped the coffee, set it back down. He didn't mention the chair until the entree. 3 weeks of dinners, of texts, of phone calls, and he waits until the entree on the 3rd date to say, and I'm going to quote him exactly, because the words have been burning a hole in my chest for the last 6 hours, he says. You know, Victoria, I've thought a lot about whether we could have a future, and I want to be honest with you. I don't think I could be physically attracted to someone who isn't whole. It's not your fault. It's just biology. Nathan felt his hands tighten into fists on his knees. He didn't say anything. He just listened the way he'd promised. And then he ordered dessert. He ordered dessert. Crème brûlée. He ate the whole thing, while I sat there, and he kept talking. He said maybe we could be friends. He said he hoped he hadn't been too forward. He said he respected me so much as a businesswoman. Victoria. And the worst part, Nathan, the absolute worst part, is that I sat there and I smiled. I thanked him for his honesty. I told him I appreciated him being up front. I let him pay the bill. I let him kiss me on the cheek at the curb. I drove home. I drove into my parking garage. I sat in my car. And then I started driving. Where did you go? Nowhere. Just driving, for 3 hours. And I kept thinking about how all my life I've made myself smaller for men. Smaller. Quieter. more agreeable. Because I thought if I was just easy enough, just pleasant enough, just successful enough, they'd forget. They'd forget about the chair. And tonight, sitting across from a man who waited 3 weeks to humiliate me over creme brulee, I realized. She stopped. Her voice broke. I realized I'd been making myself smaller for 37 years, and I didn't know how to stop. Nathan didn't move, didn't speak. And then I started thinking about all the people in my building. All these people who work for me, who I walk past every day, who I never look at, who I never speak to. I thought, what if one of them, just one of them, knew me? Like actually knew me? What if I could go to one person and just be a human being for a few minutes? And your file came up in my head. I don't even know why. Probably because of the promotion thing. The notes from your supervisor said, declined for family reasons, recommend revisit. I remember reading it and thinking, who does that? Who turns down money for family? A lot of people, ma'am. Not in my world. She looked up at him. Her eyes were red. And so I drove here. And I sat outside in the rain. And I almost left maybe 10 times. And then I just couldn't go home. I couldn't go back to that apartment. Because if I went back to that apartment tonight, Nathan. She didn't finish. But Nathan heard it. He heard the part she didn't say. He heard the silence in her sentence the way you hear a missing step on a staircase. He felt his whole chest go cold. Victoria. She wouldn't look at him. Victoria, look at me. She lifted her eyes. You're going to stay here tonight. You're going to sit in that chair and drink that coffee. And in the morning when the sun comes up, we're going to figure this out, together. You hear me? I can't ask you to. You're not asking, I'm telling. You're staying. She started to cry, not the silent crying from the porch, real crying, the kind that comes from somewhere deep and old and locked up for too long. Nathan got up, walked across the room and knelt down beside her wheelchair. He didn't touch her. He didn't even look at her face. He just stayed there on the floor beside her, so she'd know she wasn't alone in the room. You came to the right door, he said quietly. I don't even know you. You knew enough to come. She put her hand on his shoulder. Just rested it there. Not gripping, not holding. Just letting it sit there the way Maya had let her hand sit on Mr. Button's. The rain was easing outside. Somewhere down the street, a dog barked. The coffee maker hissed one last time and went quiet. It was 5:23 in the morning, and Nathan Whitfield, single-father warehouse worker, the lowest-paid employee in Brennan Logistics, was kneeling on the floor next to the woman who owned the company, and neither of them said another word for a very long time. Because they didn't need to. Because something had just shifted in that small living room, something neither of them had words for. Yet something that wasn't supposed to happen between people like them in a country like this, in a world that liked its lines drawn clean and clear. And down the hall behind a closed bedroom door, a 10-year-old girl sat up in her bed, listening to the silence, and smiled for the first time in a long, long time. The silence stretched between them, but it wasn't empty. It was the kind of silence that happens when two people finally stop performing for each other. After a while, Victoria let out a long breath and wiped her face with the corner of the towel. Nathan. Yeah. I haven't been touched in 7 years. He looked up at her. I don't mean like that. I mean I haven't been hugged by a person who wasn't a doctor in 7 years. My assistant shakes my hand when she sees me. My driver opens my door. The waitress at the place I get lunch on Thursdays calls me Hun and pats my shoulder. That's it. That's been it. For 7 years. What about your family? My mother died in 2019. My father and I haven't spoken since 2018. I have a brother in San Diego who sends a Christmas card every year because his wife makes him. That's it. That's it. Nathan didn't know what to say to that. He couldn't even imagine it. His own house was full of noise, Maya climbing on him while he tried to read, Maya kissing him on the cheek before school, Maya falling asleep on him during movie night. The idea of 7 years without somebody touching you the way family touches you, he couldn't hold it in his head. "Where's your husband?" he asked before he could stop himself. "Ex-husband." "Sorry. I shouldn't have. It's fine. Everybody asks eventually. His name was Daniel. We were married 11 years. He left in the spring of 2019, 3 weeks after my mother died. He said the timing was a coincidence. It wasn't. He'd been planning it for months. He just wanted to wait until after the funeral out of respect." Out of respect? Those were his words. Why did he leave? She looked at him for a long moment. He could see her debating whether to say it. He left because 4 years before that I was in a car accident on I-294 outside Chicago. A truck driver fell asleep. He hit the median and bounced into me. I spent 11 days in a medically induced coma. When I woke up, my legs didn't work anymore. They told me they never would again. And Daniel sat by my bed for those 11 days. He held my hand. He cried. He told me we'd get through it. And then for the next 4 years, he slowly disappeared. He stopped touching me. He stopped sleeping in our bed. He moved into the guest room and called it so I wouldn't disturb you with my snoring. And then one day, 3 weeks after my mother's funeral, he sat me down at the kitchen table and told me he couldn't pretend anymore. Pretend what? That he still wanted to be married to half a woman. Nathan closed his eyes. He had to. He couldn't look at her face when she said it. Victoria. Don't. Victoria, look at me. Please don't, Nathan. You are not half a woman. I know. No, you don't. You think you do. You don't. Look at me. She looked at him. You are not half of anything. You hear me. You are not half. You are not less. You are not what those men told you. Your husband was a coward who married a woman before life happened to her, and when life happened, he found out he wasn't man enough to stay. That is on him. That is not on you. Nathan, I'm not finished. The man tonight, Marcus, with his creme brulee. That man is not a man, ma'am. A man does not wait 3 weeks to humiliate a woman over dessert. A man tells you on the first phone call if there's something he can't get past. A man doesn't take you out 3 times to make sure you're hooked and then break you in public to make himself feel like he did the right thing. He is a coward and a child, and I don't care if he owns half the city. He is nothing. She was staring at him. She wasn't crying anymore. She was just staring. You sound angry, she said. I am angry. Why? Because somebody was unkind to a person who came to my house tonight, and that person is in my living room, and I am a father, ma'am. I get angry when people are unkind. That's how I'm built. She looked down at her hands. Daniel got remarried last year, she said quietly. She's a yoga instructor. She has 2 kids from a previous marriage. They live in the house we used to live in. He kept the house in the divorce because his lawyer was better than mine. I drive past it sometimes. I don't know why. I just do. Don't drive past it anymore. I know I shouldn't, but sometimes No, I'm telling you, don't drive past it. You're done with that house. You hear me? You're done. She nodded slowly. Okay, promise me. Okay, Nathan. I promise. Outside, the rain had finally stopped. The room felt different now, quieter, like the world had taken its foot off the gas. Nathan got up off the floor and sat back on the couch across from her. His knees were starting to ache. He was 41 years old, and he had been kneeling on hardwood for too long, and he was going to feel it in the morning. Can I ask you something? He said. Yes. Why me? I told you, your file. That's not the whole answer. She was quiet for a long moment. 3 weeks ago, she said. I came down to Warehouse 3. I never go down there. I don't do site visits. I have people for that. But 3 weeks ago, I had a meeting fall through, and I had 2 hours, and my COO had been telling me the morale at 3 was bad, and I should make an appearance. So I went. And I rolled through the floor. People stared. They always stare. I gave a little speech, nothing memorable. And then on the way out, I rolled past the break room, and there was a man in there. He was eating a sandwich. He was reading a book. And he was the only person on that floor who didn't stop and stare when I came past. He just kept reading. BKK. That was me. That was you. I didn't even see you. I know, that's the point. Everyone else looked at me like I was a circus act. You looked at your book. And I remember thinking, I want whatever that man is reading to be more interesting than me. I went back to my office and I asked Susan to pull up the personnel file for whoever was in the break room at Warehouse 3 at 11:42 a.m. that morning. 6 years there. 2 refused promotions. Single father. And tonight, when I was sitting in my car in the rain, your name was the first one I thought of. The only one I thought of. Victoria. What? I wasn't even reading. What? I was on my break. I'd been on my feet for 6 hours. I was holding the book up because if I put my head down, my supervisor would say I was sleeping on the clock. The book was upside down. I didn't even know you walked past. She started to laugh. Really laugh. Her shoulders shaking, her hand over her mouth, tears coming back to her eyes, but different tears this time. The kind people cry when something catches them off guard in a good way. The book was upside down. It was a book about birds. I don't even like birds. My daughter brought it home from the school library. I grabbed it because I needed something to look like I was reading. Oh my God. The whole story you just told me about me being the one person in the room who didn't stare, I literally didn't see you. I would have stared. I'm sorry. I would have stared like everybody else. No, you wouldn't have. Victoria, you wouldn't have. Look at me right now, Nathan. You've been looking at me for 45 minutes. You haven't looked at the chair once. Not once. I've been counting. Every man I've talked to in 7 years looks at the chair within the first 10 seconds. Every single one. You haven't looked at it yet. He didn't know what to say to that. It doesn't matter why you didn't stare in the break room, she said. What matters is that you don't stare now. And you didn't stare when you opened the door. You looked at my face. You looked at me. You're a person. I know that, but it took me a long time to find a man who acted like he knew it too. The room got quiet again. Nathan picked up his coffee. It had gone lukewarm. He drank it anyway. Can I tell you something? He said. Anything. My wife left when Maya was 4. Her name was Christine. She left for a guy she met at her gym. She came home one Tuesday afternoon and told me she'd fallen out of love and that she was moving in with him. She packed 2 suitcases and left that night. She came back the next weekend for more of her stuff, and Maya was 4 years old. Maya stood in the doorway with her arms out, asking her mother to pick her up. And Christine said, "Mommy can't right now, baby. Mommy will come back soon." And then she got in his truck and drove away. Did she come back? She came back 4 times in the next 18 months. Each time was worse than the last. She'd promise Maya the world. She'd take her for ice cream. She'd buy her a doll. And then she'd leave, and Maya would cry herself to sleep for 3 nights afterward, and I'd be the one holding her. I finally told Christine she couldn't see Maya anymore unless she committed. Either be her mother or don't. Don't keep breaking her heart on weekends. You know what Christine picked. Don't. Don't. She picked don't. She moved to Phoenix with the gym guy. He left her 2 years later. She never came back. Maya gets a birthday card from her every year. That's it. Nathan, it's been 6 years. Maya hasn't seen her mother's face in 6 years. And every day, every single day, that little girl wakes up and brushes her hair and packs her own lunch and gets on the school bus and tells me she loves me, and she does it without complaint. Not because she doesn't feel it, she does. I've watched her cry. I've held her on the kitchen floor while she screamed. But she gets up. Every day, she gets up. Because she decided a long time ago that she wasn't going to let what her mother did define what kind of person she was going to be. How old was she when she decided that? 7. 7. I asked her once. I said, "Maya, baby, why don't you ever get angry about it?" And she looked at me and she said, "Daddy, if I let myself be angry, then she wins. And I'm not going to let her win." 7 years old. My God. So when you came to my door tonight, ma'am, and you sat on my porch and you cried in front of me, I want you to understand something. The person you came to is the father of that little girl. And that little girl taught me what it looks like when somebody decides not to let people who hurt them define them. So, you're going to listen to me very carefully right now. You are not going home tonight to do whatever you were thinking about doing. Whatever it was. You are not. Because if Maya can wake up every day at 10 years old and decide that her mother does not get to win, then you, ma'am, you can decide that Daniel does not get to win, and Marcus does not get to win, and that truck driver on I-294 does not get to win. You hear me? Yes. Say it. Yes, Nathan. Tell me they don't get to win. They don't get to win. Louder. They don't get to win. She was crying again, but she was sitting up straighter. Her hands were no longer trembling. I'm sorry, she whispered. I'm sorry. I came here in the middle of the night. I dragged you out of bed. I made your daughter give me her stuffed rabbit. I'm so embarrassed. Don't be. I'm the CEO of your company, Nathan. Tomorrow you have to come into work, and I have to pretend tonight didn't happen, and you have to pretend tonight didn't happen, and I don't know how I'm going to look at myself. Victoria. Yeah. You're not going to work tomorrow. I have a board meeting at 10. Cancel it. I can't cancel a board meeting. You can. You're the CEO. That's literally the one thing being CEO means. You can cancel anything. Nathan, you don't understand. I have responsibilities. I have shareholders. I have 8,000 employees. I'm one of them. I'm telling you, cancel the meeting, take the day, go home, sleep, eat, call somebody you trust. A therapist? A friend? Anybody. But you don't get on that stage tomorrow morning at 10. Not after tonight. Not after the night you've had. You will break in front of those people, and you will hate yourself for it, and you will spend the next 6 months trying to take it back. Cancel the meeting. She was quiet. He could see her doing the math in her head, the calls she'd have to make, the optics, the rumors. They'll talk, she said. Let them. They'll think I'm losing my edge. You don't have an edge tonight, Victoria. You have a wound. And you don't take a wound onto a stage. You take it home, and you let it heal. She nodded slowly. She picked up her phone. The screen was cracked from somewhere. Maybe she'd dropped it in the rain, but it still worked. She opened her email. She started to type. She stopped. Started again. Nathan? Yeah. Will you read it? Read what? What I'm about to send to Susan, my assistant. Will you read it before I send it? I don't trust myself right now. I'm going to write something I'll regret. Victoria, I'm not... Please. He got up and went around behind her chair. He looked at the screen. The email said, Susan, please cancel everything for tomorrow. I'm taking a personal day. Forward all calls. I'll explain when I'm ready. V. That's good, he said. It's not too short. It's exactly right. What about the board meeting? Add another sentence. Tell her to push it to next week. Don't apologize. She added push the board meeting to next Thursday. No need to give a reason. Send it, he said. She hit send. She set the phone down. She let out a breath that seemed to go on for 10 seconds. That's the first time in 7 years I've canceled a board meeting, she said. How do you feel? Terrified. Anything else? Free. A little. That'll grow. The first gray light of morning was starting to show through the curtains. Somewhere outside a bird had started to sing. Nathan looked at the clock. It was 6:14 a.m. I should go, Victoria said. You shouldn't drive. I'm fine. You haven't slept. You've been crying for an hour. You're not driving. Give me the keys. Nathan, give me the keys. I'll have somebody pick up your car later. Maya will be up in an hour anyway. I'll make breakfast. You can rest on the couch. I'll call you a car when you're ready to go home. She hesitated. Her hand went into her purse and came out with a key fob. She put it on the table. You're a stubborn man. My daughter says the same thing. Smart girl. She is. He took a blanket out of the closet, an old quilt his mother had made, and laid it over her lap. He took the towel off her shoulders and put a dry one in its place. He moved her chair so the rising sun wouldn't hit her face. Sleep if you can, he said. I won't sleep. Try. He started to walk back toward the kitchen. She caught his wrist as he passed. Her grip was light, but it stopped him. Nathan. Yes. I'm going to do something. In the next few days, or the next few weeks. I don't know when, but I'm going to do something that I've been afraid to do for a long time. And I want you to know that it's because of tonight. Because of you. Because of your daughter. Because somebody finally treated me like a person, and it cracked something open. So whatever happens at the company in the news, whatever, I want you to know it started here, in this room, tonight. Victoria, what are you going to do? She didn't answer. She just smiled. A small, tired, fragile smile that didn't quite reach her eyes. Go make breakfast, she said. Your daughter is going to be up soon, and I haven't had pancakes in 7 years. He looked down at her hand on his wrist. He looked at her face. He didn't ask again. He went to the kitchen. Behind him, he heard the soft sound of Mr. Buttons being hugged tight against a chest that for the first time in a very long time felt like it had something to hold on to. And down the hallway behind that closed bedroom door, Maya was already awake. She had been awake the whole time. She had heard everything. And she was lying very still under her covers, staring at the ceiling, learning a lesson about grown-ups that she would carry with her for the rest of her life. That the strongest people in the world sometimes show up at your door at 5 a.m, soaked in rain, holding nothing but the broken pieces of themselves, hoping that someone somewhere will know what to do with them. Nathan was halfway through cracking the second egg when he heard the soft creak of Maya's door opening down the hallway. He knew that creak. He could tell which of the 3 hinges was making it. He could tell just from the speed of the creak what kind of mood his daughter was in. This morning the creak was slow, careful, like she was trying not to wake somebody. She came padding into the kitchen in her purple pajamas and bare feet, her hair sticking up on one side, and she stopped at the edge of the linoleum and looked up at him. Daddy? Morning, sweetheart. Is she still here? She's in the living room. She's resting. Did she sleep? I don't think so, but she's quiet, so don't go running in there, okay? Maya nodded. She climbed up on the kitchen stool and put her chin in her hands and watched him crack eggs into the bowl. Daddy, yeah. I heard everything. He paused with the 3rd egg halfway to the bowl. He set it down on the counter. He looked at her. Maya. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to. I tried to go back to sleep, but you guys were talking and I couldn't stop listening. How much did you hear? All of it. All of it. Daddy, the walls are really thin. You know the walls are really thin. He let out a breath. He picked up the egg and cracked it. He didn't know what to say. There were rules in this house about grown-up conversations and little girl ears, and they had just been broken, and he didn't have a script for it. Are you mad? Maya asked. No, baby. Are you sad? No, I didn't want you to hear all that. Why? Because some of it was sad, and some of it was for grown-ups. Daddy? Yeah, I'm not going to say anything to anybody, I promise. Not at school, not to Grandma, not even to Mr. Buttons when I get him back. He laughed. He couldn't help it. He came around the counter and kissed the top of her head, and held her there for a second longer than usual. I know you won't, sweetheart. Daddy? Yeah. Is she gonna be okay? I think so. The lady, what her ex-husband said. About her not being whole. That's not true, right? He knelt down so he was eye level with her. He put his hands on her shoulders. Maya, look at me. Okay. That is the worst thing one person can say to another person. You hear me? The very worst. There is nothing about a body that makes a person whole or not whole. People are whole because of who they are. Not what their legs do, not what their arms do, not what they look like in a mirror. You understand me? Yes. If anybody ever says anything like that to you in your whole entire life, I don't care if it's a boyfriend, a friend, a teacher, anybody, you walk away from that person and you don't look back. Promise me. I promise. And if anybody ever says it about somebody else in front of you, I want you to do what? Tell them they're wrong. That's right. Tell them they're wrong. Even if they're bigger than you. even if they're older than you. You tell them they're wrong. Daddy? Yeah, that's why I gave her Mr. Buttons. I know, baby. Because she didn't have anybody to hold. He hugged her. He hugged her for a long time. When he finally let her go, his eyes were wet, but he wiped them quickly with the back of his hand and turned back to the stove. Pancakes or eggs? Both. Both. You hungry? She said she hasn't had pancakes in 7 years, Daddy. I think she needs both. You're right. She needs both. He pulled the flour down. Maya hopped off the stool and dragged it over to the cabinet so she could reach the chocolate chips on the high shelf. They did this on Saturdays. Pancakes with chocolate chips in them. It was their thing. She held the bag against her chest like it was a trophy. Daddy, can I give her some of mine? Some of your what? My chocolate chips. The ones in the jar, the ones I'm saving. He looked at her. He knew which jar she meant. It was a mason jar in her bedroom that she'd been filling with the chocolate chips she didn't eat every time he made pancakes. She'd save a small handful, drop them in the jar, and the jar was almost full now. She'd been doing it since Christmas. She was saving them for something. She'd never told him for what. Maya, honey, those are yours. I know, but I want to give some to her. Just a little, like a present. What were you saving them for? She got quiet. She put the bag of chocolate chips down on the counter. I was saving them for the lady at the bus stop. What lady? The lady that sleeps under the bench, by the elementary school. The one with the green coat. Maya, I see her every morning, Daddy. When the bus comes, she's always asleep. And I thought when the jar was full I would bring it to her, so she could have something nice. But the lady in our living room, she needs something nice now, and the bus stop lady can wait. He couldn't speak for a second. He just stood there at the stove with a wooden spoon in his hand. Daddy? Yeah, baby. Is that okay? Yes, that's okay. Go get the jar. She ran. She came back a minute later carrying the mason jar with both hands, and she set it on the counter with a thunk. He looked at it. The chocolate chips were almost up to the rim. She must have been saving them for half a year. He bent down and kissed the top of her head again. You're a good kid, Maya. I know. Get me the big bowl, and put on your apron. We're making the lady pancakes. She put on her apron pink with little strawberries on it, a present from her grandmother, and she stood on the stool next to him while he poured the batter and she counted out the chocolate chips, dropping them onto the pancakes in pairs, because she said they shouldn't have to be alone. By the time the pancakes were stacked on a plate, and the eggs were scrambled, and the orange juice was poured, the sun was fully up. The kitchen smelled like butter and vanilla and coffee, and a small voice came from the living room. Is somebody making pancakes in there? Maya's eyes lit up. She looked at her father. He nodded. She picked up the plate of pancakes with both hands and walked very, very carefully into the living room, like she was carrying something precious. Good morning, Miss Victoria, she said. Victoria was awake. She was sitting up in the wheelchair, the blanket pulled up to her waist, Mr. Buttons in her lap. Her hair was a mess. There was no makeup left on her face. She looked 20 years older than she had the day before, and 20 years younger at the same time. Good morning, sweetheart. My daddy made you pancakes with chocolate chips from my jar. From your jar? It's my special jar, but you can have some. Victoria looked at Nathan over Maya's head. He shrugged a little and shook his head and mouthed, long story. Maya, that is so kind. Are you sure? Yeah, the bus stop lady can wait. Victoria looked confused. Nathan stepped in. There's a homeless woman who sleeps near her school, he said quietly. Maya's been saving chocolate chips in a jar for 6 months to give her. She wants you to have some this morning. Victoria didn't move for a long second. Then she put one hand over her mouth and turned her face toward the window so Maya wouldn't see. Is she crying, Daddy? A little, sweetheart, but it's the good kind. There's a good kind. Sometimes. Maya set the plate carefully on the coffee table in front of Victoria. Then she climbed up onto the couch and sat down with her hands folded in her lap like she was at a tea party. You can have the first one, she announced. Victoria wiped her face with the corner of the blanket. Maya, honey, why don't we eat together? Okay. Nathan brought the rest of the food in on a tray. He set up the coffee table like a little buffet. He pulled the small folding chair from the kitchen into the living room and sat down. Maya sat cross-legged on the couch. Victoria stayed in her chair, the plate on her lap. For a minute or two, nobody said anything. They just ate. It was the kind of quiet that didn't need to be filled. Then Maya spoke. Miss Victoria? Yes, sweetheart. How did you become the boss of all the people? Victoria laughed, and a small piece of pancake fell off her fork. That is a very good question. I worked very hard, for a very long time, and I made a lot of mistakes along the way. My daddy says mistakes are how you learn. Your daddy is a smart man. He says it because I broke the lamp last summer. Maya. What? It's true, Daddy. I broke the lamp, and you said, mistakes are how we learn. And then I said, what did I learn? And you said, don't play soccer in the living room. Victoria laughed harder, real laughter, the kind that comes up from the chest. Nathan watched her face and thought he had never in all the times he'd seen her on conference calls, or in newsletters, or on the screen in the break room, seen her face look like that. What did you learn from your mistakes, Miss Victoria? Victoria thought about it. She set her fork down. I learned that being the boss of all the people doesn't make you happy. It doesn't. Not by itself. No. What makes you happy? Victoria looked at Nathan. She looked at the coffee table. She looked at the half-eaten plate of pancakes with chocolate chips and pears. This, she said quietly, this makes me happy. Pancakes. Pancakes. And company. And not being in a hurry. And being with people who don't care what your job is. Oh. Maya thought about it. That's not very hard. No, Victoria said. It isn't. I just forgot for a long time. Nathan stood up to clear the plates. As he leaned over the table, Victoria caught his sleeve. Nathan. Yeah. After breakfast, can we talk? Sure. Just you and me. Outside, maybe. Or wherever's easiest. Sure. I have to ask you something, and I don't know how to ask it, and I'd rather ask it once. He nodded. He took the dishes to the kitchen. A few minutes later, after Maya had gone to the bathroom to brush her teeth, and Nathan had wiped down the counter, he came back into the living room and pushed Victoria's chair through the back door onto the small concrete patio that looked out over a yard that had a swing set and a vegetable garden Maya had planted in the spring. The morning was cold. The grass was still wet. The sky was that washed-out gray it gets after a long rain. He sat on the back step. Okay, he said. Ask. Nathan? Yeah. I need a favor. Okay. It's a big one. Okay. I'm going to step down. He went still. From the company. I made the decision an hour ago, sitting in your living room watching the sun come up. I've been thinking about it for a year, maybe 2. I just couldn't make myself do it. But last night was the last night I'm willing to live the way I've been living. I'm done. I'm going to step down, and I'm going to do something else with my life. I don't know what yet. I have ideas, but I'm done. Victoria. I know, it's huge. It's going to be a mess. The board is going to fight me. The press is going to have a field day. The stock is going to drop. None of that matters. I'm doing it anyway. Okay. Here's the favor. She looked at him. Will you come work for me? He blinked. What? Not at the company. After I step down. I'm starting something new. I don't know exactly what it is yet, but it's going to involve people. Real people. People who get overlooked. People like you who turn down promotions to be with their kids. People like the woman at your daughter's bus stop. I don't know what the shape of it is, but I want to build it, and I don't want to build it alone. And I don't want to build it with the kind of people I've been surrounded by for the last 15 years. I want to build it with somebody who would let a stranger in at 5 in the morning and not ask for anything back. Victoria, I I would pay you double what you make now. To start, whatever hours you want. You set them. You want to be home for the bus, you're home for the bus. You want weekends, you have weekends. I don't care. You can work from your kitchen if you want. I just want you on the team. You don't even know me. I know enough. You met me last night. I met the version of you that opened the door at 5 in the morning. That's the version I'm hiring. I don't need any other version. He sat there on the step with his elbows on his knees and his hands clasped together, and he stared at a point on the concrete patio that didn't exist. Victoria. Yeah. I have to think about it. I know. This is a lot. I know. What about Maya? What about her school, her bus, her routine? I can't. I have to think about her first. Always. Before anything. That's the rule. That's why I'm asking. Because that rule is exactly the thing I want at the center of this. Anybody who works for me has that rule. Their kids first. Always. Without negotiation. That's the whole point. He looked at her. You're serious. I have never been more serious about anything in my entire life. What if I say no? Then I respect it. And we never speak of it again. And on Monday morning, I will personally call your supervisor, and I will make sure that nothing about last night ever touches your job. You will be safe. Your daughter will be safe. I owe you that much, no matter what you say next. Victoria. Yeah. You've been planning this for an hour. I've been planning it for 2 years. The hour was just deciding to actually do it. He laughed. He couldn't help it. He laughed and shook his head and rubbed his face with both hands. I need a couple days. Take as long as you want. A week. Take a month. Don't tell the company yet. Don't make any announcements. Don't do anything until I give you an answer. Because if you announce and I say no, I'm going to feel like I cost somebody something. You won't cost anybody anything, but yes, I'll wait. Promise me. I promise. She held out her hand. He took it. They shook. Her hand was small, but her grip was firm. He noticed for the first time that her nails were chipped. He wondered when she had last had time to take care of something as small as her nails. Nathan. Yeah. There's one more thing. Okay. Whatever you decide. The job, or no job, whichever. I want to come back. Come back where? Here. To this house. I want to come back. Not in a romantic way. Not yet. Maybe never. I don't know. I'm not in a place to even think about that right now. But I want to come back. As a friend. To see Maya. To eat pancakes. To sit on this patio. I haven't had a place I could go and just be a person in 7 years. And I found one last night, and I don't want to lose it. Even if you say no to the job. Even if you decide tonight was a one-time thing. I want to know there's a door I can knock on if it gets bad again. He looked at her. Victoria. Yeah. You don't have to ask. You're welcome here. Anytime. 5 in the morning, 5 in the afternoon. Doesn't matter. You're sure? I'm sure. And Maya's gonna want her rabbit visited. She laughed. She wiped her face with the back of her hand. Okay. Okay. They sat there on this patio for another few minutes, not saying much, while the sun climbed a little higher in the gray sky and the smell of wet grass came up from the yard. Inside the house, Maya was singing to herself in the bathroom, some song from a movie she'd watched too many times. After a while, Victoria looked at her watch. I should call a car. I'll call you one. Nathan. Yeah. Thank you. Don't thank me yet. You haven't tasted the pancakes when they're cold. You're gonna want to take that thank you back. She laughed one more time. He went inside to get the phone. But before he picked it up, he stopped at the kitchen counter and stood there for a long moment, with his hand on the receiver, and he stared out the window at the woman in the wheelchair on his back patio, the most powerful woman in his world, and the loneliest, and the bravest, and now somehow sitting on his patio drinking his coffee like it was the most normal thing in the world. And he understood something he hadn't understood at 5 in the morning when the pounding had first woken him up. He understood that his life was about to change, and he wasn't afraid of it. The car came at 8:20. Nathan watched her go through the kitchen window. The driver helped her into the back seat, folded the chair into the trunk with the practiced care of somebody who had done it 100 times, and the black sedan pulled away from the curb and disappeared around the corner. Maya was at the window beside him on her tiptoes. "Daddy." "Yeah." "Is she gonna come back?" "I don't know, sweetheart." "You said she could come back any time." "I did." "So she will." He looked at his daughter. He hadn't told her about the job offer. He wasn't going to, not yet. "We'll see, Maya." "She will." "How do you know?" "Because she took Mr. Buttons home with her." He looked down. The couch was empty. The blanket was folded on the arm of it. The mason jar was on the coffee table with about a third of the chocolate chips left, but the stuffed rabbit was gone. She took him. "I told her she could borrow him for a little while, as long as she gives him back when she's not sad anymore." "Maya." "What?" "That's a really nice thing you did." "I know." She walked off to her room. He stayed at the window for another minute. Then he sat down at the kitchen table and put his head in his hands and tried to figure out what had just happened to his life. The next 3 days were quiet. He went to work. He clocked in at 4 in the afternoon. He drove the forklift up and down the warehouse aisles. He ate his sandwich in the break room. He looked up sometimes at the screen on the wall, the one that played corporate updates on a loop, and he watched footage of Victoria Brennan from a quarterly report cut together with stock B-roll of warehouses and trucks. The Victoria on the screen was wearing a navy suit and pearls. She was smiling. She was answering a question about supply chain logistics. She did not look like a woman who had cried for an hour on his couch. He didn't tell anybody. He didn't tell his supervisor. He didn't tell the guy who worked the next forklift over. He didn't tell his mother on the phone Sunday afternoon. He carried it the way you carry a small glass thing you're afraid to drop. On the 4th day, he got the message. It came as a text from a number he didn't recognize at 9:47 in the evening. "This is Victoria. I'm using a different phone for this long story. I'm not asking for an answer yet. I just wanted to say thank you. Again. The pancakes were the best meal I've had in a decade. V." He stared at the message for a long time. Then he typed back, "Maya wants to know how Mr. Buttons is doing." The reply came in less than a minute. "Mr. Buttons is sleeping on the pillow next to me. He has been a perfect house guest. Tell Maya I'm taking very good care of him." He smiled. He showed the phone to Maya, who was on the floor doing her math homework. She read it. She got up. She went and got a piece of construction paper and a marker and drew a picture of a stick figure rabbit waving with a speech bubble that said, "Heimer Buttons." And then she made him take a picture of the picture and send it to Victoria. The reply this time took longer, maybe an hour. When it came, it was a picture of Mr. Buttons sitting up against a pillow with a coffee mug next to him like he was having his morning brew. Maya laughed so hard she fell off the couch. After that, the messages came every day. Small ones. A picture of the sunrise from Victoria's apartment window. A question about whether Maya had a favorite color. A note that said the chocolate chip pancakes were still being talked about. Nathan replied to all of them. He kept it light. He didn't mention the job. She didn't either. On the 7th day after she'd left his house, the news broke. It came across his phone while he was on his lunch break in the warehouse parking lot. He was eating a turkey sandwich in his truck. The push notification said, "Brennan Logistics CEO announces sudden departure." He nearly dropped the sandwich. He clicked the article. The piece was short. Victoria Brennan, longtime CEO of Brennan Logistics, had announced her resignation effective in 90 days. The board had been informed that morning. A search committee was being formed for her replacement. In a brief statement, Ms. Brennan had said she was stepping back to pursue a different kind of work, and that she was deeply grateful to the company and the team. There were no further details. The stock had already dropped 4%. He read the article 3 times. Then he put the phone down on the dashboard and stared out the windshield at the loading bay across the lot, and he sat there for the rest of his lunch break with the sandwich uneaten on his lap. When he got home that night at 1 in the morning, there was a text from Victoria. "Now you know. I told you I was going to do it. Take all the time you need on the other thing. There is no rush, truly. Sleep well." He didn't sleep well. He lay on his back in the dark and stared at the ceiling fan and thought about everything she had said on his back patio. He thought about Maya's bus stop. He thought about the woman in the green coat. He thought about 6 years of forklift shifts and turning down promotions and counting hours until weekends. He thought about what it would mean to tell his daughter that Daddy was changing jobs. He thought about what it would mean to tell her he wasn't. Around 3 in the morning, Maya came into his room. She climbed onto the bed without saying anything and tucked herself under his arm the way she had when she was 4. "Can't sleep, baby." "No." "Bad dream." "No." "Then what?" "You're awake." "I know I am. You being awake makes me awake. I can feel it." He kissed the top of her head. "I'm sorry." "Are you thinking about her?" "Yeah." "Daddy?" "Yeah." "Did she ask you something?" He didn't answer right away. "Maya, how do you know she asked me something?" "Because you've been quiet for a week, and you only get this quiet when somebody asks you something hard. You're too smart for your own good." "I know." He thought about it for a long minute. Then he decided. "She offered me a job." "What kind of job?" "A new one. With her. Not at the warehouse. Something else." "Something else like what?" "I don't know yet. She doesn't really know yet either. She's starting something new." "Would you have to leave Brennan?" "Yeah." "Would you make more money?" "She said she'd pay me double." Maya was quiet for a few seconds. "Daddy?" "Yeah." "Why haven't you said yes?" "Because I have to think about you." "What about me?" "What about your school, your bus stop, your routine? What if it changes things, Maya? What if I have to travel? What if it doesn't work out and I lose a job I've had for 6 years for one I had for 6 months?" "Daddy." "Yeah." "You're scared." "I'm not scared. I'm being responsible." "It's the same thing sometimes." He laughed in the dark. He laughed because she was right and because he didn't want to admit it. "Maya, what do you think I should do?" "It doesn't matter what I think." "It does. To me, it does." She thought about it for a long time. He could feel her breathing against his arm. "I think you should say yes." "Why?" "Because you smile different now." "What do you mean?" "When you got home tonight, you were tired, but you smiled when you saw me, the way you used to smile when I was little. You stopped smiling like that for a while. I think you forgot how, but you've been doing it again all week, ever since the lady came over." "Maya." "And Daddy." "Yeah." "If she pays you double, you can stop working nights, and you could be home when I get home from school. And we could do homework at the table, like other kids and their dads." He didn't answer. He couldn't. He just held his daughter tighter, and he closed his eyes and he lay there in the dark for a long time while she slowly fell asleep against his chest. He didn't tell Victoria for 2 more days. He waited until Saturday morning when Maya was at her grandmother's for the afternoon, and then he sat at his kitchen table with a cup of coffee and his phone, and he typed out the longest text message he had ever written in his life. "Victoria, I've been thinking about it every day. I talked to my daughter about it last night. She had a lot to say. I'm not going to lie to you, I'm scared. I've been at the warehouse for 6 years, and I know how it works there. I know when to clock in. I know who to talk to when there's a problem. I know exactly how much money is going to be in my paycheck on the 15th and the 30th. I haven't had a job that wasn't predictable in a long time. But Maya said something last night that I can't stop thinking about. She said I smile different now. And she said if I take the job, I could be home when she gets off the bus. So I'm going to say yes. With one condition. I want to know exactly what I'm signing up for before I quit. I'm not going to walk into something blind with a kid to feed. So whenever you're ready, I'd like to sit down. Really sit down and hear what you're building. Nathan. He read it 4 times. He almost deleted it twice. Then he hit send before he could change his mind. The reply came in 3 minutes. I'll be at your house tomorrow at noon. I'll bring lunch. He typed back, Maya will be home. I know. That's why I picked tomorrow. I bring lunch for 3. She came at exactly 12 o'clock. The sedan pulled up to the curb. The driver got out, set up her chair, helped her out. She rolled up the ramp on the side of the porch, the same one she had come up a week earlier in the rain, and she knocked, and Maya answered before Nathan could even get to the door. Miss Victoria? Hello, Maya. Maya stared at her. Then she pointed at her lap. You brought him. Mr. Buttons was sitting on Victoria's lap, wearing what looked like a tiny knitted scarf. I did. He missed you. Where did he get the scarf? I made it for him. I haven't knitted in 15 years. He needed something. Maya laughed and threw her arms around Victoria's neck. Victoria didn't flinch. She didn't tense up. She just hugged the little girl back, and Nathan, watching from the doorway, felt something in his chest crack open in a way that wasn't painful. Victoria had brought sandwiches from a deli across town. Real sandwiches. The kind that came wrapped in butcher paper. She had brought potato salad and pickles and 3 bottles of cold lemonade. She set it all out on the kitchen table while Nathan got the plates down. They ate. They talked about small things first. Maya's school. The ducks at the park. A bird Maya had seen out the window that morning that she was pretty sure was a hawk, but Nathan said was a crow. After about 20 minutes, Maya got up and announced she was going to go play in her room because the grown-ups were obviously about to talk about boring stuff. She was right. Victoria waited until her bedroom door closed. Then she folded her hands on the kitchen table and looked at Nathan. Okay, here's what I'm doing. Okay? I'm starting a foundation, not a charity. A foundation. There's a difference. A charity gives away money. A foundation builds programs. Mine is going to do 2 things. The first thing is housing. Permanent housing, for working families, people who have jobs but can't afford a place to live because the rent in this city has gone insane. We'll buy buildings, we'll renovate them, we'll rent them out at 1/3 of market rate. The catch is there's no catch. You don't have to be a success story. You don't have to be sober for 2 years. You don't have to be in a program. You just have to need a place to live and have a job. Any job. Okay. The second thing is harder. It's people. It's the woman at Maya's bus stop, the man at the gas station who's sleeping in his car, the mother in the shelter with 3 kids. We are going to pair them with somebody, a real person, not a caseworker, a friend, somebody who buys them coffee on Tuesday mornings, somebody who helps them fill out the housing application, somebody who shows up. Long term. The whole idea is that loneliness is the disease and connection is the cure, and most charities miss it because they're trying to scale things that don't scale. Victoria, that's huge. I know. How are you going to pay for it? I'm putting in the first $80 million from the sale of my company stock. The rest we'll raise. I have 10 people lined up already who'll match me dollar for dollar. $80 million? Yes. Victoria. Don't. I don't need it. I have more than I will ever spend in 3 lifetimes. Most of it was going to sit in a portfolio and get bigger until I died and the lawyers fought over it. This is better. He took a long breath. Okay. So, where do I fit? I want you to run the second program. The people won. The people won. Victoria, I don't have a degree. I haven't run anything. The only thing I've ever managed was a pallet jack and a 10-year-old. Nathan, I have run a $400 million logistics company for 15 years. I have hired hundreds of people. I have hired Harvard MBAs. I have hired ex-military officers. I have hired people who came out of nonprofits with 20 years of experience. None of them would have done what you did at 5 in the morning a week ago. The thing I need for this program is not a degree. It is a person. I am hiring a person. What would I actually do? You'd find the volunteers. You'd train them. You'd match them with the people they're going to walk alongside. You'd handle the cases when things go wrong. You'd build the model. You'd write the playbook. You'd have a team. I'd hire whoever you tell me to hire. I'd pay them whatever you tell me to pay them. The only rule is the one I told you about a week ago. They're kids first, always. And Maya gets a desk in your office, whenever she wants, after school, weekends, whenever. The office will have a kid's room, crayons, a small couch, snacks. I'm building it that way on purpose. The first program we run is going to be inside a building where the people who run it can be parents while they run it. He sat back in his chair. You've thought about this a lot. I've been thinking about this for 2 years. What I didn't have until last week was the courage. He looked at the kitchen ceiling for a long minute. He looked at her. He looked at his hands. When do you want me to start? Whenever you're ready. I want you to give your warehouse a real notice. 2 weeks. Be a class act about it. Don't burn anything. Then take a week off. Spend it with your daughter. Take her somewhere. The beach, the mountains, anywhere. On me. Because the next year is going to be hard and you should start it rested. Then come to my office and we'll begin. Victoria, yeah. I don't need you to send me on vacation. I know you don't need it. I want it. And it's not a favor to you. It's a favor to your daughter who has had to grow up too fast because her father has been working night shifts for 6 years. Take the trip. Don't argue with me. Yes, ma'am. Don't ma'am me anymore. We are equals now. From this minute. We are equals. That's going to take some getting used to. You'll get used to it. He looked at her across the table. She looked back at him. Nathan. Yeah. I haven't been this excited about anything since my wedding day, and my wedding day in retrospect didn't deserve the excitement, so this is the first thing in a very long time that's actually worth the way I'm feeling. Don't make me cry in my own kitchen, Victoria. I'm not trying to. You're doing a pretty good job anyway. She reached across the table and put her hand on his. It was the first time in any of it that they had touched on purpose. Her hand was small and cool, and her grip was firm. She didn't squeeze. She just rested her hand there. Partner, she said. Partner, he said back. From the bedroom down the hall, Maya yelled, Are you guys done being boring yet? Victoria laughed. Nathan laughed. Yeah, baby, he called. We're done. She came running out, sliding across the linoleum in her socks, and she crashed into Victoria's chair with a hug that nearly knocked them both over. Daddy, are we keeping her? Maya. What are we? Victoria laughed so hard she had to put her hand over her mouth again. Maya, sweetheart, you can't keep people. You can keep friends. Yes, Victoria said. You can keep friends. So we're keeping her. Nathan looked at Victoria. Victoria looked at Nathan. Some unspoken thing passed between them, and he understood in that moment that whatever this was, whatever it had started, as on a rainy porch at 5 in the morning, it was not going back into the box it had come out of. Yeah, baby, he said. We're keeping her. Maya nodded with great seriousness, like she had just closed a major business deal, and she went back to her room to play. Victoria turned her hand over so her palm was up. Nathan, without thinking about it, put his hand in hers. They sat at the kitchen table for a long time, holding hands across the leftovers, while sunlight came in through the curtains, and a 10-year-old girl in the next room sang a song to a stuffed rabbit, who by the end of it was officially home. The 2 weeks at the warehouse went by faster than Nathan thought they would. He gave his notice on a Monday morning, written by hand on a piece of lined paper, the way his father had taught him. You give notice not by email, not by text, but on paper. Signed, dated, handed to your supervisor in person. His supervisor, a man named Earl, who had been at Brennan for 22 years, read the letter twice. Looked up at Nathan over the rim of his reading glasses and said, Whitfield, you sure? I'm sure, Earl. You got something lined up? Yeah. Better. I think so. Good for you, son. We'll miss you. That was it. No fuss, no questions. Earl shook his hand, put the letter in a folder, and went back to his clipboard. Nathan walked out onto the warehouse floor and did the rest of his shift the way he always did, and nobody on the floor knew anything was different. He didn't tell the guys. He didn't want a goodbye party. He just worked his last 2 weeks, drove the forklift up and down the aisles, ate his sandwich in the break room, and on his last shift. When he clocked out at 1 in the morning, he stood in the parking lot for a minute and looked at the building and felt nothing he expected to feel. No sadness, no nostalgia, just a quiet, calm certainty that he was doing the right thing. He took Maya to the ocean for that week off, the way Victoria had told him to. They drove down to a little beach town in Delaware where his mother used to take him as a kid. They stayed in a small motel 3 blocks from the water. They ate ice cream every night. They walked on the sand in the morning. Maya collected shells in a plastic bag and gave them names. On the 3rd day, a storm rolled in and they stayed in the motel room and watched a movie on the television, and Maya fell asleep on his shoulder, and he sat there with his arm around his daughter and his eyes on the rain hitting the window, and he thought about a different kind of rain on a different kind of night, and the woman who had come out of it. He started at the foundation on a Monday in October. The office was on the 2nd floor of a renovated brick building downtown. Victoria had bought the whole building. The 1st floor was going to be the housing program's intake center. The 3rd floor was the kids' room, which she had built before anything else, and which already had crayons and a beanbag and a small couch and a basket of stuffed animals, all of them. Maya noticed when she first saw it related in some way to rabbits. His office had a window that looked out over the street. There was a desk, a chair, a laptop, and a framed picture on the wall. Victoria had hung it before he got there. It was Maya's drawing, the one of the stick figure rabbit waving and saying, "Hymir Buttons." She had had it framed in real wood. He stood in front of it for a long time on his first morning, and he didn't know whether he wanted to laugh or cry, so he did a little of both. The first hire he made was a woman named Denise, who had spent 15 years as a social worker for the city before quitting, because in her words, the paperwork was killing the people. The second was a man named Hector, a retired bus driver who knew every corner of the East Side and every person who slept under a bridge in it. The third was a young woman named Aisha, who had grown up in foster care and was the reason Nathan eventually understood what the program was actually for. Because on the day he interviewed her, she said, "I don't want to be saved. I want to be a friend to somebody, the way nobody was a friend to me." He hired her on the spot. By Christmas, the program had 11 volunteers and 23 people they were walking alongside. The woman in the green coat at Maya's bus stop, the one Maya had been saving chocolate chips for, had been one of the first. Her name turned out to be Dorothy. She was 62 years old. She had been a nurse for 30 years before a divorce, and a series of medical bills had broken her. And when Hector found her under that bench and sat down next to her with 2 coffees, the first thing she said to him was, "I'm not crazy, I just got tired." By February, Dorothy was living in one of the foundation's first apartments. By April, she was working part-time at the intake center because Aisha had asked her to come in and just talk to people who get here scared. Maya gave her the mason jar with what was left of the chocolate chips on Dorothy's first day at the new apartment. Dorothy cried. Maya hugged her. Nathan stood in the corner of the apartment with his hands in his pockets and watched the whole thing, and he understood, in that moment, why he had said yes. Victoria was at the office most days. She had given herself the title of founder and refused anything fancier than that. She came in around 10. She left around 4. She worked from her wheelchair at a desk in the corner of the 2nd floor, and she did not let anybody bring her coffee because she said she had spent 15 years letting people bring her coffee and she was done. She rolled to the break room herself. She poured her own. She talked to everybody. By the spring, the press had figured out what she was doing. The articles were mostly kind. A few were snide. A couple of business journals wrote think pieces about whether her resignation had been emotional and what it meant for female leadership in the C-suite, but most were genuinely impressed. One of the bigger papers ran a long profile in May. The reporter spent 2 days at the foundation. She interviewed Victoria. She interviewed Dorothy. She interviewed Aisha. She interviewed Nathan briefly, who answered 3 questions and then politely declined the rest because, as he told her, "I'm not the story, they are." The article ran on the front of the Sunday section. The headline was, "She was the CEO. Now she's something better." Nathan's mother called him the day it ran. So did Earl, his old supervisor. So did 3 different guys from the warehouse who said they hadn't realized Nathan was the guy in the article until their wives pointed it out. He kept the conversations short. He thanked them. He didn't make a big deal of it. Maya cut the article out of the paper and taped it to the refrigerator where it stayed for a year. The thing nobody outside the office knew, and the thing nobody at the office talked about, was what was happening between Nathan and Victoria. It happened slowly. There was no moment. There was no grand announcement. There was no first kiss in the rain, no sweeping declaration. There was only Tuesday nights when Victoria started coming to dinner, and Saturday mornings when Maya started insisting that Victoria come for pancakes, the real ones with the chocolate chips, not the sad ones. And there was the day in late June when Maya sprained her ankle falling off the swing in the backyard, and Nathan was at the office, and Victoria, who happened to be picking Maya up from a school field trip because Nathan was running late, drove Maya to the urgent care, herself sat with her for 2 hours, signed paperwork as family friend, because the receptionist asked who she was and bought her a milkshake on the way home. When Nathan got to the urgent care, panicked and apologetic, Maya was sitting on Victoria's lap in the waiting room eating French fries, watching cartoons on Victoria's phone. Maya looked up at him and said, "Daddy, I'm fine. Stop yelling." He hadn't been yelling. He had been near tears. He thanked Victoria. Victoria waved him off. She wheeled Maya out to the parking lot. They went home together, all 3 of them. They had dinner. Victoria stayed until Maya fell asleep on the couch with her foot propped up on a pillow. And when Nathan walked Victoria out to her car at 10 o'clock that night, he stood by her open passenger door for a long minute and he didn't know what to say. "Victoria." "Yeah." "Thank you." "Stop thanking me, Nathan. You answered the phone. You picked her up. You signed the papers. You sat with her. You..." "Nathan." "Yeah. I love your daughter." He didn't know what to do with the sentence. He just stood there. "I love her," she said again. "I have loved her since the night she gave me Mr. Buttons. I would have driven through a wall to get to her today. So please stop thanking me. It was not a favor. It was the most natural thing I've done in a year." He took a breath. "Victoria." "Yeah, what is this? What is what? This, us, the dinners, the pancakes, the what just happened today?" She looked up at him from the wheelchair. "What do you want it to be?" "I'm asking you." "I'm asking you back." He laughed. He rubbed his face with both hands. "I haven't done this in a long time, Victoria." "Neither have I. I'm scared of getting it wrong." "So am I." Maya is going to be fine. Maya knew before we did. Maya has been telling me she's keeping me since last September." He laughed again. He looked down at her. She looked up at him. And he leaned down slowly, the way you lean down when you don't want to scare somebody, and he kissed her on the forehead because that felt like the place to start. She closed her eyes. She put her hand on his cheek for a moment. "Okay," she said. "Okay," he said back. It was September again, almost a full year from the night she had pounded on his door when they sat on the same back patio where she had asked him to take the job. Maya was inside doing her homework at the kitchen table. The coffee was in 2 mugs on the small table between them. The sky was the kind of clear that you only get in the fall, and a leaf came down off the maple tree at the edge of the yard and landed on Victoria's lap, and she picked it up and turned it over in her fingers. "Nathan." "Yeah." "Do you remember what I said to you on this patio last year?" "You said a lot of things." "I said I was going to do something I'd been afraid to do for a long time, and I said it started here, in this house, with you." "I remember. I want to thank you." "You've thanked me 100 times. This is a different one." "Okay." She turned to look at him. She had on a dark gray sweater, and her hair had a little gray in it now that she wasn't dyeing anymore because she said she was 48, and she'd earned every one of the silver ones. A year ago tonight, Nathan, I was sitting in a parking garage with a bottle of pills in my purse. He went very still. I had been carrying them for 3 weeks. I hadn't decided. I hadn't planned a day, but I had them. And that night after Marcus, after the creme brulee, I was going to do it. I had decided in the car. I drove to the building. I sat in the garage. And then for some reason, I still don't know why, I don't think I ever will. I pulled your file up on my phone, and I drove to your house instead. And I sat in front of your house for 2 hours. And then I went up to your door. Victoria, let me finish. Okay. I had the pills with me on the porch, Nathan. They were in my purse. And when you opened that door and your daughter brought me a towel and she gave me her rabbit, and you told me to come inside, and I would not be alone. I sat on your couch with a purse on my lap that had pills in it, and I thought, I don't need these tonight. And the next morning when I went home, I flushed them. All of them. Down the toilet. The whole bottle. I have not bought another one. I have not even thought about it. Because you and your daughter saved my life, Nathan. Literally. Not figuratively. Literally. I would not be sitting on this patio if you had not opened that door. He couldn't speak for a long minute. He just looked at her. Why are you telling me now? Because I think it's important to say things out loud sometimes. I think the things we don't say become heavier than the things we do say. And I have been carrying that for a year, and I am tired of carrying it. And I wanted you to know. Victoria. Yeah. I knew. What? I knew. That night. I knew. You didn't say it, but I heard it. In the way you said you couldn't go home. I heard it. That's why I made you stay. That's why I wouldn't let you drive. You knew. I knew. She looked at him, her eyes filled. You never said anything. You weren't ready to talk about it. And then you got better, and it didn't seem like the kind of thing a man brings up. Nathan. Yeah. She reached for his hand. He took hers. I love you, she said. I know. I have loved you since you knelt down on the floor next to my chair and didn't touch me, just stayed there so I wouldn't be alone. I have loved you since. Victoria. Yeah. I love you too. They sat on the patio for another long time. The leaf was still in her lap. The coffee had gone cold in both mugs. Inside the house, Maya was singing along to something on the radio off-key and at full volume, and neither of them moved to make her stop. After a while, Victoria spoke again. Nathan. Yeah. I want to ask you something. Okay. Will you marry me? He laughed. He laughed because he had been thinking about asking her for 2 months, and he had a ring in a drawer in his bedroom that he hadn't been brave enough to take out. And now this woman who had once been afraid to cancel a board meeting, had just done what he hadn't been able to do. Yes, he said. Yes, Victoria. Just like that. Just like that. You don't want to think about it. I've thought about it for 10 months. You have a ring, don't you? In the drawer. I knew it. Victoria. I was going to ask you. I was working up to it. I was scared. Of what? Of you saying no. Nathan. Yeah. I told you a year ago. I came to your door. You think I'm going to say no? He laughed. He couldn't stop laughing. He bent forward in his chair, and his shoulders shook, and Victoria reached out and put her hand on the back of his neck, and they stayed that way for a long time, both of them laughing and crying at the same time, while a 10-year-old girl in the next room kept singing off-key and didn't know yet that her family had just doubled in size. They told Maya that night. She didn't act surprised. She put her hands on her hips. She looked at both of them with the same long-suffering expression she wore when Nathan asked her if she had brushed her teeth. Took you long enough, she said. They got married the following spring in the backyard on the patio where so much of it had happened. There were 40 people there. Dorothy in a new blue dress walked Victoria down the makeshift aisle because Victoria's father hadn't spoken to her in 8 years and didn't come, and Dorothy had said, "Honey, somebody is walking you down that aisle, and it's going to be me because you walked me back into my life and I owe you. Aisha was the maid of honor. Hector officiated. Earl from the warehouse was there. The whole second floor of the foundation showed up. Maya was the flower girl, and she wore Mr. Buttons in a small basket attached to her hip because she said he had earned it. Setyo. When the time came for Victoria to say her vows, she didn't read from a piece of paper. She just looked up at Nathan from her chair, and she said, "I came to your door at 5 in the morning in the rain, and I thought I was knocking on a stranger's door. But I wasn't. I was knocking on the door of my whole life, and you opened it." That was all. That was the whole vow. Nathan didn't get through his without crying. Maya patted his back from the side, and at one point she handed him a tissue from a pack she had been carrying in her dress pocket, in case Daddy got emotional. A year after the wedding, the foundation served its 1,000th person. 2 years after that, there were 3 offices in 3 cities. 5 years after that, there were 19. The model that Nathan had built: small teams, deep relationships, kids in the office, parents first scheduling. No one walked alongside for less than a year, had been written up in 3 universities. He never gave speeches about it. He sent Aisha. He stayed home. He coached Maya's softball team. He picked her up from the bus stop. He never missed a recital. Victoria lived for another 23 years. When she died in a small bedroom in the house she and Nathan had built together, surrounded by the family she had not believed she would ever have. Maya was holding one of her hands and Nathan was holding the other. The last thing Victoria said to either of them was, "Tell Mr. Buttons thank you." He was on the pillow next to her. He had been with her all those years. Maya had never asked for him back. There is a small plaque on the wall of the foundation's first office on the 2nd floor of the brick building downtown that almost nobody notices because it is hung low at wheelchair height. It is brass. It is engraved with one sentence. The sentence reads, "Open the door. You never know whose whole life is on the other side." Nathan put it there the day after Victoria's funeral. It is still there. It will always be there. And every person who walks into that building and sees it understands, even without knowing the story, that some doors, when they are knocked on at 5 in the morning in the pouring rain, do not just let a person in. They let a whole life in. They let love in. They let a family in. And the man who opens the door, if he is brave enough to open it, will find that he was never just opening a door at all. He was answering the most important question a life can ever ask. And his answer on that one rainy morning was yes.